Hello and welcome to my YouTube channel. I'm Judith Patterson. I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator in Texas. Today I'm going to show you how to make a couple of cards from the catalog with some minor adjustments using the Peaceful Deer stamp set. This stamp set is in the annual catalog. You can find it on page, I think, 42 or 43. We'll look in just a second. And it is a great stamp set for Christmas cards and wintry cards, and you can do anything, as you'll see, from serene cards, just peaceful, sweet cards, to some fun and whimsical cards with this set. So let me go ahead and flip to my desktop. Okay, so like I said, it's from the annual catalog, and you can find it on page 42. So the cards we're going to be making today are this one with one small adjustment, and this bag. This is an embossed treat bag, and instead of using the bag, we're going to make a card out of it. So I did want to show you, this is how the bags come packaged if you are interested in using these. These are great little bags, perfect for fun treats, and you can see that the bags are embossed, so you could use these thick and thin lines as your guides whenever you're using your blending pen to create your stripes on the bag. The bags come 10 per package, and they measure 4 3/4 inches wide, so just a little wider than a card. 6.5 inches tall, so about an inch higher than a standard card, and 1.5 inches wide when they're folded out. So they don't take up a lot of room, but they're great, like I said, for little treats, small gifts, maybe cookies. So there is that, and let's get started stamping. So I want to start with the more peaceful, serene card first. So I have a piece of cardstock that measures 3 inches by 4.5 inches, but I'll be cutting this in half so that it'll be 2 pieces, each 1.5 inches wide and 4.5 inches tall. So what I'm going to do is, first, I'm just taking a pen here. I'm going to measure 1.5 inches, so there's 1.5 on my grid paper. And then I'm going to very lightly, using a pencil, because I'll be honest, and sometimes I misguess on measurements. It's hard for me to visualize them perfectly, so I'm just going to make that light pencil mark in the middle because I don't want to cut off the deer's nose or anything weird. So I'm starting with Old Olive ink and this ground piece. I'm going to stamp off the page just a little bit, and I'm stamping near the bottom. So then I'm going to stamp again, this time keeping to the left of that line. So I'll be stamping off the left side of my page this time, and I want to move it up just a smidge. There we go. So I'm going to take my Memento ink, and I'm going to start with the deer that's lying down and stamp her just above that first ground mark. I'm going to take the standing deer, and I'm going to stamp him right here, and this is the part where I really wanted to make sure I did not stamp his nose on the wrong side of that line. That looks great. So now I'm going to add the antlers, again with the Tuxedo Black. And it's great that our stamps, these are photopolymer, so they're clear. I'm trying to make sure you can see what you're doing, what I'm doing, and I can see what I'm doing here. So they're clear, and the blocks are clear, so it's easy to position perfectly, just like that. So while I have this Tuxedo Black out, I'm going to ink up my sentiment stamp, which says "Sending love and peace this season." And this is where that blue line comes in handy. So I'm going to make sure I'm staying on the right side of that line. Stamp that towards the top. So I'm pulling out my old olive again. This time I'm going to use the 3 trees, and I'm going to stamp them. I want the tallest tree almost under the O. Then I'm going to take these 2 trees that are together, and I'm going to bring them down a little bit. Be right there. Then I'm going to take those 3 trees again, and this time I'm going to stamp towards the top on the left, stamping off of my cardstock just a little bit. So I got really close to the deer there. That's fine. Okay, so now I'm going to use my crumb cake blends to color the deer. Okay, so I used the dark one for the standing deer, and then I'm using the light crumb cake for the deer laying down. Okay, so I'm going to take an eraser now and erase those lines that I had made, or that one line. And like I said, it was really light. I have a great eraser, so there's nothing left on my cardstock from that. So I'm going to use my paper trimmer. Let me see if I can position it where you can see it. Oh, one more stamp. So there's a wreath stamp. You can stamp it with the old olive and put it right here above or around this guy's neck. And again, you can see through, so you can see exactly where to stamp. Okay, let's see if you can see this. So I want to cut it at 1.5 inches. It's okay for the antler to go over a little bit, but I wanted to really make sure there that that nose did not get chopped off. Okay, so I've already done this next step. I have a piece of cardstock that is 4 inches, about 5¼ inches wide. This is a garden green, and I used my fern 3D embossing folder to emboss it with these ferns. Now, I like this. It's just one simple piece. If you want it to look exactly like the card in the catalog, for that one they used the Christmas pine cone dies. I don't have those, so I'm really happy with my fern dies here. So the first thing that I'm going to do before I attach that to my card base is I'm going to take a glue, I'm going to use 2 glue dots. I'm going to put one here, and then I'm going to put one here. Oops. There we go. So then I'm going to use this Sweet Sorbet twine. This is from the 2022 to 2024 in color twine. I'm just going to wrap it around my cardstock twice, using those glue dots to hold it in place. Okay, now I'm going to tie a bow around that twine. I don't know if y'all can hear it or not, but my chihuahua is in his bed behind me, and he's snoring in his sleep. Of course he's snoring in his sleep. It would be weird for him to be snoring if he was awake. Okay, so I'm just fiddling with that bow a little bit till I have it like I want it. Then I'm going to use Stampin' Dimensionals to attach these two pieces over that ribbon. I just want to make sure that I'm not putting dimensionals where the twine is. That would make my cardstock look a little lumpy. Just leaving a small gap between these two pieces. Then I'm going to pull my bow this way just a smidge. There we go. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and use dimensionals on this piece too. So usually when I'm doing large pieces like that, I usually do 3 rows of 3, but I wanted to do just a little extra on this one. I usually put my 3rd row right in the center, but since I couldn't do that for the twine, I just went ahead and did an extra row. So you want to place that on your garden green card base. And then I have another piece of basic white cardstock. This one measures 4 inches by 5 1/4 inches. I'm going to use that relaxing deer again. Resting. I guess she's a resting deer. I'm just going to put her right here in the bottom corner and use that light crumb cake blend, Stampin' Blend, to go ahead and give her some color. And then if you wanted, you could also use the Merry Christmas stamp on the inside, but I think I'm going to leave that off. Okay, there's our first card from the catalog. The second card, I'm starting with basic white. This is 4 inches by 5 1/4 inches. The Stampin' Blends will bleed through a little bit and show on the back, so that's why I'm not stamping directly on a piece of like a card base. I'm going to use another piece of basic white for my card base. So I'm turning my grid paper so that I can use the lines as my guide, since this is not embossed with stripes like the bags are. So I'm using the brush tip. I'm doing this a little backwards. In the catalog, the green stripes were wide, and the red stripes were the narrow ones. also, the card in the catalog uses Regal in color designer or not in color, Regal's designer series paper. I don't have the Regals. I have though the 2022 to 2024 in color paper, designer series paper. So I'm using the Sweet Sorbet and the Parakeet Party blends to coordinate with that. There's my stripes. Thank goodness those do not have to be straight. I'm going to go ahead and use Stampin' Dimensionals again to attach this piece to my basic white thick cardstock card base. Okay, so I have a 2.5 inch by 3.5 inch piece of craft paper. I'm going to use my punch to punch out of the Sweet Sorbet DSP. And this is the Reindeer Builder Punch. I have my Merry Christmas stamp. I'm going to stamp on the Parakeet Party Designer Series paper. This piece measures 1/2 inch by 2 3/4 inches. So I'm going to go ahead and use dimensionals. Usually I don't use 3 layers of Stampin' Dimensionals because you can run into some issues if your card gets too thick running it through the mail. But I think 3 will be okay. We'll see. We'll find out. Okay. So now I have the white organdy ribbon, the glittered organdy ribbon, if I can get it. There we go. So I'm just going to tie a bow. Just fiddling with it, getting it the width that I want it. Okay, there we go. Just cut this off. And then I'm going to grab a Stampin' Dimensional, no, not a dimensional, a glue dot. Put on the back of the knot. And then I'll just put that right there at the top of the card. And you can fiddle with it a little bit more if you want to. Not at the top of the card, at the top of the card stock. Just want to make sure that that glue dot is hidden. So that looks good. So now I'm going to take, I think I'm going to use mini Stampin' Dimensionals this time to put on the back of the reindeer. And I don't know why I said reindeer, it's just a deer. So she can go there, and then I'm going to use regular Stampin' Dimensionals, although you could continue to just use the mini ones, whatever you have. If you don't have mini dimensionals, you can use the regular dimensionals and just cut them in half and put them on the back of the deer. That's fine too. Okay. There we go. So one other small change that I would like to make to this, really like using the iridescent rhinestones when I use the glittered organdy ribbon. I just think they look good together. So I'm going to add a couple of these rhinestones here to the card. There we go. And we're all done. That is both of our cards from the catalog. So let me just grab that catalog again. So that you can compare the card that we just made with the original here. And then this one with the original bag. So just some minor changes to these. It's all about what you have on hand and what your design style is, what your preferences are, and just what you like. You can make any card your own. Thank you so much for watching. I hope that you're having a wonderful week and that you are getting ready for the holiday season. Thanks again. Happy stamping.